To paint a texture to a 3D model, you must first unwrap its 3-dimensional shape to a 2-dimensional UV map. Let's learn how to do that using this mushroom object. Open the UV editing workspace. Enter Edit mode with Tab and select the entire object with A. The mushroom is currently unwrapped like a default cylinder it was at the beginning of the previous lecture. There is also too much empty space in the UV map. In order for the texture of the mushroom to look as good as possible, the object must be unwrapped better. Press U to open the UV mapping menu. There are multiple options to unwrap an object. Let's use the first option called Unwrap for this model. When you select that option, nothing happens. When using this option, you have to add seams to the model to define how the object should be unwrapped. Make sure your mouse is over the 3D viewport window and press 2 to enter Edge mode. Select the loop cut below the gap by holding down Alt while selecting it with the left mouse button. Press U to open the UV mapping menu and select Mark Seam. The selected loop cut turned red because it was marked as a seam. Select the entire object with A and open the UV mapping menu with U. Unwrap the model with the Unwrap option. Now there are two circles in the UV map that are the parts above and below the seam. Looking at the 3D model and the current UV map, it can be seen that the part above the seam is well unwrapped, but there are overlapping faces in the part below the seam. This can be confirmed by selecting the faces of the object. Most of the time, an object shouldn't have overlapping faces in the UV map, because then if you draw on one of them, the other one will also be affected. Let's add more seams to the mushroom to get rid of the overlapping faces. Make sure you are in Edge mode by pressing 2. Select the loop cut between the cap and the stalk by holding down Alt while selecting with the left mouse button. Open the UV mapping menu with U and mark the selected loop cut as a seam with the Mark Seam option. Right after that, add a seam to the bottom of the stalk. Select the loop cut in the middle of the lower part of the stalk by holding down Alt while clicking with the left mouse button. Press U and select Mark Seam. Let's now try to unwrap the model. Select the entire object with A, press U and select the Unwrap option. There still seems to be one slightly vague area in the UV map that turns out to be the top part of the stalk. Let's add another seam to the stalk. Press 2 to enter Edge mode. Select one of the upright edges of the stalk, then hold down Shift to select the shorter edge below it. Press U and select Mark Seam. Now you should have a seam that starts from the middle horizontal seam and ends at the lowest horizontal seam. Select the entire object again with A and unwrap it with U. The unwrapping part of this phase is now complete. As you can see, unwrapping a model with seams requires some trial and error to make the end result great. The next part of this phase is to fill in the empty space of the UV map. You can select vertices, edges, and faces of the UV map in the same way as the geometry of a 3D model. You can change the selection mode with keys 1, 2, and 3. In addition, you can also select islands with the 4 key. The islands of the UV map are determined by the seams you added earlier. You can edit islands by moving, rotating, and scaling them. Let's modify the islands to fill as much of the UV map as possible. You can move the selected island with G. To rotate an island, press R. To scale an island, press S. It's good to leave some space outside the edges of the islands in case you need to draw a little bit over the edges. The UV map is part of the 3D model, so when you save the model, its UV map is also saved. If you want to learn more, check out my game asset creation course by clicking the link below.